Yo, what is up everybody, and welcome back to another F1 2020 My Team gameplay. It's race number 2 of the 2020 season. We are in Bahrain, and we are coming off of our team debut last week in Australia. We debuted the Cookie Monsters, and we brought home a P14, which is definitely something to write home about. Normally, a P14 is nothing spectacular. It's not a points finish. Normally, you would be disappointed with finishing in the 14th place out of 22 cars. But considering we literally just built this team from the ground up, I would say 14th was a solid debut. We qualified 15th, so we finished about where our pace set in qualifying. And I would say top 15s are definitely, not a win for us, but it's definitely a good weekend for us at this point because I think finishing in the points is a bit of an unrealistic expectation, but getting a top 15, I would say, is considered a good race weekend for us. Now, for our teammate Nikita Mazepin, I would say going through the first corner of the race without kamikazing a couple of guys is considered a good weekend. After his debut race, the bar is really low for this man. All he has to do is finish the race without a scratch on his car, and that's fine by me. Just finish the race cleanly and beat the Williams. I think that's realistic expectations for Mazepin. For us, I'm not quite sure what to expect in qualifying because our expected qualifying pace is what, 22nd out of 22 cars on the grid? Not great. And so far, it's not looking too bad. 16, 17 hovering around that area, which, wouldn't be too bad considering our car right now, I would say, is probably the third worst car on the grid, ahead of Haas and Williams, and slightly behind the AlphaTauri and the Alfa Romeo. As we are coming through this S section here, we are P15. That's, I would say we get another P15 in qualifying. That's fine by me. As you see, we're flirting with, 13, 15, dropping back to 17th. If we qualify like 20th, I would say that would be a little bit disappointing. Right now, Lewis Hamilton on pole. This time, we actually have the full qualifying lap right now, going down the straightaway. We have a Mercedes engine, so it's not a top, flight power unit in this grid, but it's definitely not the worst power unit, so we're not going to suffer too much. At a track like Bahrain, having a good power unit is definitely important with the amount of long straightaways, as we are about to just enter yet another long straightaway before making a turn into the main front straight. So it's looking like a P17 right now, unless we can pull something drastic out. We're going to have to see how our pace compares to our teammate Mazepin to see if we truly got enough out of the car. So it looks like Lewis Hamilton will be on pole for the Bahrain Grand Prix. For ourselves, we are officially confirmed as Cookie Boy 17 in P17. Not what we are looking for, but like I said, a top 15 is considered a dub. A 17 would be a realistic performance for us. Anything above that, I would say we're outpunching our weight with this car. So, qualifying 17th means we're going to have to mix it up with the strategy to try to get a better finishing position. Last week in Australia, our strategy was not too great, so we'll try to work on that. As you guys see the qualifying results, about the usual suspects in the front, Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull. Renault had a nice qualifying performance. We qualified 2/10 above our teammate Mazepin, so that's a pretty solid outing for us. Mazepin qualifying P19 in between the two Haas guys, and like I said, we finished right behind the AlphaTauris and the Alfa Romeos, about where we would expect to be. So we've acquired a good number of resource points heading into the race at Bahrain. So we're actually going to try to develop a major upgrade. It's going to take a little bit, but hopefully it comes through soon. And in the meantime, let's go racing in Bahrain.
We're here again then at a circuit famous for its stunning visuals and thrilling battles for glory. Who will take the spotlight in the Bahrain Grand Prix today? Formula One returns to the desert today on this exceptional 3.36 mile circuit. 15 corners provide plenty of overtaking opportunities. It could be a strategic race, this one, with Sakir notorious for eating up the rear tyres. Watch out for drivers managing their rubber at some point during the Grand Prix. And a warm welcome, of course, to my co-commentator here today, someone of tremendous experience and insight. It's the man himself, Anthony Davidson.
Well, it was a really impressive lap in qualifying to get pole position, but are they going to be able to hold on to the lead into the first corner with so many quick starters around them? One more thing to consider is the strategy element. How far can the drivers push these tyres, and who's going to blink first for fresh rubber? It'll be interesting to see if the leaders have to compromise their plan to cover off the cars behind them.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Albon, Max Verstappen and Vettel, Ricciardo, Ocon, Stroll and Lando Norris, Perez, Sainz, Kimi Raikkonen and Gasly, Giovinazzi, Kvyat, Cook and Kevin Magnussen, Grosjean, Latifi, Russell and Nikita Mazepin. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
We are on the grid, and it's about to be 5 red lights on and 5 red lights off. Quick one there, and we are underway with the 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix from P17 on the grid. No grid penalties this time to excel our position, but we could dive the first turn. Look how many cars we've passed. We got to slow down a bit here, make sure we get some good acceleration, let a couple of guys pass. Whoa, those are the 2 Alphas that collide, Raikkonen and Giovinazzi, and it looks like Giovinazzi's come out ahead in that one. I'm not sure if either of them or both of them have damage. There was definitely some debris flying off of the track. No yellow, no virtual safety car, nothing. No one spun out. Everything continues. We are officially slotted into P13, so that means we gained 4 places on the opening lap so far. That is definitely good for us because we are planning to do a one-stop strategy today, going from the medium tires to the hard tires. So getting good track position early on in the race will be paramount to making our strategy work out. For Raikkonen, meanwhile, it looks like he is backing up. It's most likely to assume that he has damage in this one. So Raikkonen falling behind and maybe pitting this time by. We have Romain Grosjean behind us right now in the Haas. Grosjean also had a pretty electric start to this one because I believe he started right behind us in P18. So Grosjean making moves, we're making moves, and it's good to have a Haas guy behind us because the Haas car is not too much slower than us. As you guys see, I'm about to check the race director to see if there was an incident between Giovinazzi and Raikkonen, because that was a legitimate collision, or even, I'm not sure it was Sainz or Norris, but one of the McLarens was involved in that little scrap. So Lewis Hamilton clearing away with P1. I believe Bottas is P2. The Mercedes looking like they're on for another 1-2 finish like they had in the season opener in Australia. For us right now, you know, we are just chilling as we go on board with the McLaren. This is a replay of the lap 1, turn 1. You see, we dived our way to 4 wide, but we backed out of it. But still, 3 wide between the McLaren and the 2 Alphas, and eventually the team's worst nightmare. Cars colliding. Hard to place blame on that one because it was a 3 wide incident, and you know, normally 3 wide in Formula 1 spells disaster. We got out of that mess, and it's a good thing we did because 1, there was no room for us to get any more involved in that little scrap, and 2, they did collide. So as you guys see, we have now skipped ahead to lap 5 out of 29. Our running position stays about the same, where we are kind of tagging the back of Giovinazzi, kind of just taking his DRS, just trying to stay within DRS range of the Alfa Romeo, and just trying to, you know, save some battery, use some battery to keep up with Giovinazzi, save some down the straightaway. But unfortunately, as we cross the line to complete lap 6, we have officially lost DRS of Giovinazzi, and Pierre Gasly has gotten by the Haas of Romain Grosjean. Raikkonen did indeed pit after the first lap, so he's nowhere to be found. Grosjean has now been passed by Carlos Sainz, and we might be passed by Pierre Gasly soon. Gasly getting to the back of us. I'm not going to fold over and give this position up, though, because this is a legitimate position we are racing for. Everybody on the medium tires, we can assume, are going on the one-stop strategy, going mediums to hards. And anybody on the soft starting this race, which is pretty much the top 10 runners, we have to assume they are 2-stopping, probably going soft, medium, soft, or soft, soft, medium, depending on how their strategy works out. And right on cue, a lot of the 2-stoppers stopping right now, including Lewis Hamilton, who comes out right behind myself and side by side with Gasly. A tricky spot for Lewis Hamilton, the race leader before pit stops. And Lewis Hamilton looking to go on the outside of Pierre Gasly. Both of them have DRS open. open, but that Mercedes is so strong. Hamilton has pitted for the softs, so he has a lot more traction than Gasly, and he makes the move around the outside. This is all going on right behind our Cookie Monster car. We're just looking in the rear view, watching it all, but now Lewis Hamilton is all up our gearbox, and Lewis Hamilton is looking for a way past us as soon as possible. And who am I to hold off the reigning double world champion? So we're just gonna pull off to the side here and let Lewis Hamilton, he has DRS, so even if I try to fight it, you know, nothing good would have happened for us. So we're just going to let Lewis by. The hope was to stay within DRS range of Lewis Hamilton by the time we got to this front straightaway, but as you guys can see, that clearly has not happened. Lewis Hamilton on those fresh softs in the Mercedes, way too good for us, as Gasly right behind us, Bottas right ahead of us, so it looks like Lewis Hamilton still got the undercut on Bottas despite coming out in traffic. Bottas, meanwhile, just clears myself and Gasly, so he's in clean air. Gasly trying to put on the attack. We're using all the battery we can on these straightaways to defend from Gasly, and Carlos Sainz behind us as well, looking for a way out. This is one of the Mercedes breaking down. That's Valtteri Bottas. Bottas pulls off to the side. He is out of the race with a mechanical failure, as you guys see our view of that incident, and we have a virtual safety car, a VSC deployed, and with ourselves so close to the pit lane, I think this is our time to make the pit stop. The pit window is not open yet, but we are going to box this lap under the virtual safety car, and we are going to try to take advantage of the VSC being out. So the VSC, we basically have to maintain a delta, a slow pace. It's not an actual safety car, but it's where we have to slow down while an incident is being cleared up on the track. And one thing about a virtual safety car, it is a pretty good time to make a pit stop. So, you know, while everybody's going slow, we make our pit stop, and we're going to gain a lot of time on the rest of the field, gain a massive undercut on most of these guys. As you see, a lot of the two-stoppers are currently in heavy traffic. You saw what Lewis Hamilton had to deal with. Check out what the Ferraris and the Renaults are dealing with. Like Leclerc and Vettel, they are in heavy traffic right now. We have made our one and only pit stop. We come out in almost last place amongst all the runners as the VSC is over. Cole Tire is getting the best of us there as we overshoot that corner. The only car behind us is Raikkonen, who had to pit for crash damage on lap 1. As you guys see, Kevin Magnussen getting very edgy with one of the Renaults. Meanwhile, Ferrari from behind about to make this quite the scrap. A Force Indy as well looking to the outside. K-Mag is getting absolutely mugged. It looks like, I think that's Vettel trying to make a move, and he cannot. I believe it's actually Leclerc behind Magnussen, who's going to have to wait. Meanwhile, for us, we were in clean air for a couple of laps, but it looks like we have now caught the Williams of Nicholas Latifi, who has not pit yet. So the danger of us making that pit stop under the VSC is our pit window was not quite open to get to the one-stop strategy. The pit window was going to open up on lap 13. By us pitting earlier, yes, we gained a massive undercut, and we save a lot of time by making our pit stop under VSC, but it's going to be a bit questionable whether these tires, these hard compound tires, are going to be able to make it to the end. This Bahrain racetrack is high on tire wear, so we're definitely going to have to manage the tires, which is definitely not easy in this Cookie Monster car, because as we went over in the first race in Australia, one of the biggest weaknesses of this car is it gets a lot of wheel spin coming out of corners, and that is not good for the rear tires. And yeah, that is definitely going to present maybe a potential issue, maybe not. We're going to have to see how the race plays out. Though, for now, we watch our teammate holding up the Renault and the Ferrari until he comes down pit road. So Mazepin comes down for his only pit stop. Latifi, meanwhile, is going to be under attack from us. We're going to try to make this move on Latifi as soon as possible. We could try to wait until DRS is activated and then pass Latifi, but we actually are able to make the pass and get DRS, because before we made the pass, we passed the DRS detection zone, so we were able to time that pretty well. Latifi comes down the pits anyways, and look at the undercut we got. Remember, before the pit stops, we were behind Giovinazzi in the Alpha. Now we are about 2 seconds ahead of Giovinazzi, so that's a big gain for us. Obviously, he's going to have fresher tires by about 4 or 5 laps, but, you know, trying to actually pass someone is a whole different ballgame in the Formula 1 racing, especially when it comes to us using our battery and, you know, rich fuel mixture to try to defend down the straightaways. And we'll have to see if Giovinazzi can even catch us in the first place. So now you guys see a lot of the two-stoppers. They are under pit road right now, making their pit stop, including Max Verstappen, or at least one of the Ferraris, one of the Renaults, and it looks like a McLaren in that mix. So a lot of the faster cars in this race making two stops and coming out way behind us. So that's going to present an interesting dynamic to the second half of this race, to where we may be under attack from a lot of the faster cars in the final couple of laps of this race. As you see, Leclerc down pit road, Ocon down pit road. And look at where we are in the race right now. We are in a legitimate 4th place in the Bahrain Grand Prix. So I believe there's someone who has not pit. It's Alexander Albon. He's in the pits right now. So Lewis Hamilton assumes the lead of the race. Sergio Perez is in P2. Perez got very fortunate that the virtual safety car came out before he made his pit stop, since he was doing a 2-stop. So he was able to gain a lot of track position, avoid this mess that is currently forming behind me. Not even, you know, with me, but behind Giovinazzi, who seems to be holding up Gasly, and it looks like Max Verstappen as well. So, yeah, Albon is able to come out ahead of us, just barely ahead of us, but ahead of us nonetheless. Perez is ahead of us. We're not going to catch either of those two. Albon looks like he's fitted for the mediums. I think Lewis is on the mediums. Perez is on the hards. And Giovinazzi on the hards. Look at this live shot of Giovinazzi backing up so many cars. So we got Gasly, we got Verstappen, we got Leclerc, we got it looks like Kvyat. It's Vettel behind Kvyat. The Renaults and the McLarens are in that mix as well. All of those guys on much fresher tires with much faster cars, but the AI are struggling to pass right now, especially with Giovinazzi having the Ferrari engine underneath that Alfa Romeo, the Ferrari engine being the best engine unit in this game right now. It's hard to pass that Alpha right now, and the AlphaTauri is having a ton of issues, and even the Red Bull of Max Verstappen is really struggling to make passes. So it might be up to the Ferraris to carve their way through this field and put us under any sort of pressure. So the way this race is working out, whoa, that is Sebastian Vettel running into the back of his teammate Charles Leclerc. A reversal of what happened in Austria in real life last weekend, where Leclerc absolutely kamikaze Vettel. It looks like Vettel has just straight up just punted the back of his teammate Leclerc, and Sebastian Vettel has wing damage to where he is actually going to be pitting. So Sebastian Vettel is going to forfeit any chance he had of getting a points result in this race. Vettel now comes into the pits. It looks like Leclerc is able to soldier on without any damage, but Ferrari's race, which is already not looking too great, gets compounded even more. Meanwhile, for us, we are in P4, but the drama is really starting to develop with our tires. We have gapped Giovinazzi by 3 seconds, so Giovinazzi is really our best friend right now, holding up Gasly and mainly holding up Max Verstappen, who is definitely much faster in the Red Bull, as well as Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. But for us, the last 4.5 laps of this race is all about tire management, trying to make these hard compound tires get to the end of the race without suffering a puncture. Once any tire on your car gets to 75% or above tire wear, you are at risk of a random puncture happening. So I'm trying to maintain the gap on Giovinazzi, but at the same time watch these tires and make sure they don't hit that 75 percentile mark. Our worst tire right now is the left rear. Both of our worst tires are the rear tires, so I'm going to try to avoid wheel spin off the corners, take it easy on the acceleration. So, you know, we might lose a little bit of time in these last couple of laps, but it's way more important for us to finish this race. Even if we do not get 4th place, if it's 5th or 6th place, that is still an outstanding run, an unprecedented run for this team in its 2nd race. I'm not quite sure how we've got here in 4th place. It's been a lot of really good luck as we enter the white flag lap. It's been a lot of good fortune for us. It is understated how lucky we have gotten in this Grand Prix. For the virtual safety car to come out, for us to be able to get that undercut, for a lot of the top runners like Verstappen and both the Red Bulls and both the Renaults to be stuck in traffic, for Valtteri Bottas to retire in the first place, for Giovinazzi to be the car behind us, because Giovinazzi really held up a lot of guys to where if it was Gasly behind us even, Gasly would have brought, Verstappen behind us and Vettel and Leclerc, and that would have put us under a lot of pressure, and we would have probably conceded a lot of positions. Though, as you guys notice, Max Verstappen has made his way to P5 in this race. So Verstappen on the final lap is trying to make a charge to get 4th place from us. If Max Verstappen catches us, I'm not going to try to fight him. It's more about bringing this car to the finish. If Verstappen gets a run on us, so be it. But we do have a little bit of battery to try to fend off Verstappen down the straights if we need to. And meanwhile, Giovinazzi still holding on to P6, which would be a career best for him in his Formula 1 career. Albon looking like he might get his first career podium. Sergio Perez is looking like he'll get a podium, an unprecedented podium in that Racing Point. And meanwhile, for us, it's P4 or P5. As you see, the tire at 74%. Verstappen in our mirrors, but we are coming off of the final turn. Verstappen's not going to be able to put a charge on us, and it will officially be 4th place. What an outstanding run for the Cookie Monsters. When we started this team, getting a point result in the first half of the season was looking to not be too realistic. Maybe we could eked out a couple of like 9th places or 10 places or 8 places, but a 4th place in the second race, literally would have never seen that coming. Like I said, we got so lucky in this race. This was literally the perfect result for us. I think the only thing that would have worked out better for us was if Albon got stuck behind us. But I'm not even sure we could have held off Albon. But nonetheless, P4, I mean, that's just unbelievably lucky for us. So, yeah, our teammate finishes 15th, which is easily a career best for him. He keeps the car clean this time around when some guys like Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Räikkönen suffered damage. And Bottas had to retire from the race with mechanical failure. And incident-free race otherwise, according to the race stewards. But as you guys saw, there was action all around the track. So, it looks like Leclerc gets 7th, Ricciardo 8th, Gasly actually got dropped to 9th, Kvyat, his teammate, gets 10th. Neither of the McLarens get points in this one, so not a great start for McLaren, and not a great start for Ferrari, because, you know, Leclerc gets 6th, but Vettel brings home no points. So, yeah, that is going to do it for this video. An unbelievably lucky Bahrain Grand Prix for us. P4, I'm almost speechless after that race. The next race is Vietnam, so that's going to be a rough one for sure. We're definitely going to be brought back to reality in Vietnam because that's a tricky street course. So yeah, leave a like in the video if you guys enjoyed this crazy Bahrain Grand Prix where we got a P4. Subscribe for more F1 2020 gameplays, and I will catch you guys next time. Thank you as always for watching.